Hey, what's up? Yeah, I got you surfing. Hey, what's up? It's Matt from Youth Baseball Talk Live. First podcast coming to you live from Dallas, Texas. We're going to have a lot of content to carry us because we're not Brad Pitt, and he's definitely not Leonardo DiCaprio. We're more like Uncle Buck and that guy who sold Callahan Auto Parts. Just out here, just trying to promote youth baseball. A little bit about me. I'm from Minnesota. Love baseball. I've been coaching around here since, I guess, 2016, 2015. The guy across from me, Mike, has a lot more knowledge about that aspect of it. He's been doing it a little bit longer. Turn it over to him. Hey, Mike.
Hey, yeah, so I'm Mike Langford. I'm with Career Prospects, and we're here live with you guys today. We're going to chit-chat a little bit about some things that are going on in youth baseball. We're excited to kick it off.
I agree. Hope I look all fresh and tight. My guy Jay up there at Main Street Barber in the Colony hooked it up yesterday. So had to at least have the headshot looking good. I think we should jump right into talking a little bit about umpiring. Me and you were both on different sides a little bit. You're a tournament director. I came from the parent side and also the coaching side. And, you hear about the deterioration of the umpiring and not being able to get good umpires. I see it from two different sides. I know you're probably more on the tournament director side. I always have the umpires back. I think there's been an erosion of both sides, the parents, the coaches, and the umpires. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two ships colliding, right? You got parents who pay a lot of money to coaches. Coaches feel like they need to be on it for the parents. And then you have the umpires who are, a lot of them are decent umpires. They just don't always handle conflict resolution the way we want them to, right? It's hot. They've been out there all day. And parents and coaches are on them. And then, sometimes they snap a little bit.
And I think that's a big thing too, right? Like parents have gotten way more aggressive. Coaches have gotten a lot more aggressive. And I've also seen it where umpires have gotten a lot more aggressive too. And I think that fuels into a lot of conflict where if an umpire is going to pop off after one comment, or if a parent is popping off, especially on stuff like judgment calls, right? That's never going to change. They're never going to change that. It's not like we have instant replay like they do in the Little League World Series or Major League Baseball or college baseball. It's kind of a judgment call where you shouldn't even be able to argue that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of things that people don't understand. Judgment calls are just that. You got guys that are not professionals. They're weekend warriors. They're out there for your kids, trying to earn a little bit extra money, and they're not professional umpires. They're not college umpires. A lot of them are high school umpires, but then a lot of them are not. They just work weekend tournaments. It's an extra job for them. So I think a little understanding from everybody goes a long way. That's for sure.
And yeah, I think that's something we all need to get better at. Parents, coaches, umpires, tournament directors. I mean, we've all been there where we've done stuff that said stuff that we probably shouldn't have. I've seen umpires say stuff that they probably shouldn't have. And I think this is a good place for us to start building on that to make everybody a little bit more knowledgeable and a little bit better about it. Like you said, a lot of times it's 110 degrees out there. They're outside in the heat. They're having people constantly yell at them. And I think coaches and umpires and tournament directors should all work on being people that are going to fix the situation instead of make it worse. And what's something as a tournament director that you do to help out with that?
So we spend a lot of our time training on conflict resolution, right? We have certain steps that we want to take to make sure that everybody stays cool. And we tell the umpires it's on you to control the field. It's on you to control the situation. If it gets out of hand, it's more likely than not your fault. So, and what do I mean by that? So we can dive into it a little more. Like, so when we say conflict resolution, if parents are on him, the coaches are on him, call time, bring the coaches away from the backstop, and just have a conversation. Say, look, coach, these are judgment calls, ball strikes out safe. We're just not going to argue those anymore today. If we have any more problems with parents, you're gone, and move on from there. But before you even get to throwing a coach, there's three things that we ask them to do: warn, restrict to the dugout, and then if it still can't control themselves, then it's getting tossed. I tell them all the time, you should never engage parents. You should never talk to parents, whether it's friendly or unfriendly. You just ignore parents and deal with coaches. Let the coaches deal with the parents. And a lot of times, like we said earlier, things get heated and all those things go out the window, and we don't follow those protocols, and then that's when we get phone calls and people are upset.
And everyone has a sense of pride, right? And
Yeah.
I get it too. Like umpires should have a sense of pride. Parents, coaches, everyone should have a sense of pride. I get it. But like you said, we all need to learn to control our emotions a little bit better. We're trying to tell these kids to control their emotions, and we're out here sometimes acting inappropriate and saying stuff, frankly, that we shouldn't.
And it's hard. Like, I'm a baseball dad too. I've been to tournaments, and I have to really keep my mouth shut. One, because I am an official. I've been officiating baseball for 26 years now, and so. And then two, since I run tournaments, I don't want to go to someone else's tournament and cause problems. So I see it too. I mean, I'm not blind to it either. It's, sometimes you just get a bad one, and other times you get a really good one. It's just the state that we're in is that there's more baseball than we have umpires, and obviously that causes a problem. Not everybody's going to get, the top of the line umpire. Somebody's going to get the guy that's new or learning, or has had a bad day, or got into it with his wife the night before. I mean, it is what it is.
Which is a great thing too, because I think not having enough umpires, I mean, it's sad from one aspect of it, but the other aspect of it is that shows that baseball is kind of coming back, because I think baseball kind of did fall off a little bit, and it feels like it's really making a strong comeback. And like you said, if we get umpires, coaches, and parents and kids on the same board, I think it's going to really help out with youth baseball.
Yeah, and if I can, any advice that I can give parents and coaches is just, hey, when those guys are out there and you don't like them, there's nowhere for them to go. They're out there for the whole day. So my advice would be to just let it roll off your back, buddy up to them, offer them some water, and you'd be surprised how far that goes.
Yeah, and I think that goes with everything, right? Yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily going to give you a call, but it's going to make the game a lot better, and the kids are going to have a little bit more fun too.
Yeah,
and I know it gets super competitive. The other thing that I was wondering about too is, like, I hear a lot of times that the parents and the coaches are actually worse at the younger ages and the lower level of baseball. And I say lower level. I don't really think there is a lower level, but like in rec and AA, when kids are just getting started before they move up to AAA and majors and all that, I've heard that those guys get it the worst. And sometimes I think that's because they have 14-year-old and 15-year-old kids at their first job out there umpiring a game, and you got some parent going absolutely berserk on a 14-year-old.
Well, there's a little more to it than that. You got to understand, like, a lot of the mamas don't understand baseball when their kids are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They don't know the rules. And so, they see something that they don't understand that doesn't make sense, but it is an actual baseball rule, and then they lose their mind because they feel like they're getting cheated. Perfect example, a 9U game. We had a call that was the game was on the line. There was the home team was down by a couple runs with 2 outs. Kid blasts one to the center field wall, but he lets go of the bat and it hits the catcher. Well, that's an automatic dead ball out.
Mhm.
Now, with 9-year-olds, you typically warn them, but that's not necessarily a have to. It's just a courtesy. And so, coach and parents, I got phone calls from all of them, hot because we ended the game that way. That was the 3rd out. And so, by the time I get to the bottom of it, I figure out what's going on. And I'm like, and the coach wants his money back. He's telling me he's never going to play again. And when it came down to it, he was actually in the wrong. And I'm not saying they're always right, because sometimes umpires are wrong. But in this instance, he slung the bat. He sends me a video from Game Changer showing that the kid threw the bat into the catcher and still didn't like the explanation of the rule I gave him. And at that point, there's really not a whole lot I can do for him and just say, hey, I apologize, but this is the rule. I point to the rule online where you can find it. They just didn't like the way that the game ended on a dead ball out when they had runners scoring that were going to put them ahead and they were the home team. So it's just one of it got heated. It didn't go their way. And then, it caused problems. So, yeah.
And I understand that too, because everyone always says stuff like, oh, you're taking it away from the kids. However, that rule's in place so somebody doesn't get hurt. That bat only weighs at 90, what, you can do a drop 12.
Right.
So it weighs, 14 ounces. I mean, you could throw that thing 60 miles an hour into a catcher that probably isn't ready for it. And if it hits him like in an elbow or an arm or the head, then it could cause an injury. And I get it. Ever since we've been little, you hear don't throw the baseball bat.
Yeah.
But it does come up. All those rules are in place because stuff like that does happen.
Yeah.
And I get it. The umpire has to make a tough decision. And I mean, I could see the parents getting upset about it too. Like you said, they may not know the rule or may just be mad because it's a dead ball out and the game's over.
Yeah.
And then the sad part about that is probably 10 minutes later.
Cool.
Except for in that situation, they sent you the Game Changer. But I'd say 99% of the people, after about a 10-minute cool down, probably realized, man, it really wasn't that big of a deal. We're over here at Dairy Queen, and the kids are eating ice cream, and they could care less.
They don't care. They're sad in the moment.
The only reason they'd still be upset, I think, is if the parent kept bringing it up. The coaches kept bringing it up and kept talking about the issue, talking about, they took it away from us. Thing is, I guess, just score more runs.
How do you feel about, and I've had this conversation with coaches, and I coach baseball and I coached a whole lot of football, and I always tell my players, like, don't ever put it in the official's hands. Like, if you do, you're asking to be let down. You're asking to be disappointed. And and that's kind of a crappy way to look at it, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all going to make mistakes, and if that game is close enough to where it doesn't go your way, we can't blame the official. He may have missed it, but at the end of the day, you didn't put yourself in a position to where that wouldn't be an issue, right?
Yeah, and I understand that too. And I guess you've also put yourself in a situation to be close in the game too. I guess it's a great learning lesson for life too, because you always hear work harder than the other person, score more, and that's at your job too. Like if you work harder at your job, you're definitely probably going to move up faster than somebody else is. So when you go, what age group do you start hiring umpires at? I know one of my friends' sons is 14 years old, and he just got hired in the Plano League. I mean, what age group?
I try to start him at 16.
Okay.
And I try, if we're going to do 16-year-olds, I try to only get kids that have played baseball and understand the rules a little bit.
Okay.
The hardest part about it is knowing how to deal with people. And, when someone's crawling on you, you got to know how to take charge and say, hey, we're not going to do this. This is what it is. If you don't like it, we can get past it after the game, but we're going to move on and keep playing. And that's the hardest thing for a 16-year-old to figure out when he's got a 30-year-old coach chewing on him.
That probably doesn't know as much about baseball as the 16-year-old does.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny you say that. So I've worked high school games where high school coaches don't know what infield fly is. And so when I say that, there's a kid camped under a ball 10 foot in the grass, you call an infield fly, and he's like, he's in the grass. And I'm like, Coach, I mean, do we know the definition of an infield fly? I mean, you're a high school coach. We shouldn't be having this conversation. When you kind of approach them like that, they're like, okay. But it's their job to try to get whatever they can for their guys. And so you got to understand that too. So
Yeah, the infield fly rule gets a lot of people. I mean, it is kind of tough, right? I mean, it's got to be like, a play that's generally made. And then, sometimes, especially at the younger ages, kids don't know if to run or to stay on the base. Yeah. And then they get tagged out when they went off the base because they thought they had to go to second base. The parents in the stands, I'm sure that for a 14 or a 16-year-old umpire coaching 8, 9, and 10-year-olds is just a complete mess and see it a lot.
Well, and from my side of things, umpiring is our biggest, issue. And I say issue, it's just the thing that we're most concerned about. We really work hard to make sure we have guys that know what they're going to do, show up on time, and be there for the kids, not just for a paycheck. And that's hard to do sometimes. Sometimes you got to get a guy because there's so much baseball being played. Sometimes you got to get a guy that's out there for a paycheck. And it's unfortunate, but that's what we got to do to get through the
Hey guys, I got a TikTok question. They want us to explain the infield fly rule.
Okay, so the definition, to my understanding, unless it's changed, is that it's any reasonable attempt to make a play on a fly ball by an infielder. So if he's camped underneath it, it doesn't matter if he's 50 feet in the grass, he made a reasonable attempt to make that play. And the reason for the verbiage for that is because base runners are held. And if he's camped underneath it, you have to protect the base runner. So that's why it's an infield fly when it's a reasonable attempt. If he's sprinting out there and it doesn't look like he's going to make that with a reasonable attempt, then it's not. It's a regular. It's a fly ball that got through.
Yeah, and the reason that's in there too is because it'd be an easy double play if not, and then they get mad about that. So I mean, that's like a lose-lose situation for everyone. So when the umpire points the sky and signals it, I mean, that's pretty much the end of it. Go back to the base, stand on the base. But that's when that drops, and infielders sometimes do that on purpose, where they drop the ball, and then the runners start running all over. That person's already out on the infield fly, and you're free to tag anyone else who's running.
Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of a crazy. I mean, we saw it happen at 14U last year.
Yeah.
The kid was off the bag, got tagged out. They were like, I mean, it's tough.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about baseball. There's little intricate rules that you learn along the way. I played baseball through my sophomore year in high school, and then I started officiating as soon as I got done playing. And baseball was my first love. I just happened to be better at football, so I just jumped into officiating baseball. And there were so many things I didn't know as a player. And you start learning these things as you get into calling games. But the unfortunate side of it is the only way to learn is to fail at it and ask questions, get your butt chewed by coaches and parents, and then just don't have a chip on your shoulder and be willing to learn that craft if that's something you want to do. And for the most part, the guys that work these tournaments, that's what they do. But like I said, every once in a while you get a guy that's had a bad day or a bad week or he came in from somewhere out of town and we really don't know him because we got to fill the spot, and it happens. And coaches call me like, man, that guy sucks. I'm like, yeah, he might, but he's there for the weekend, Bubba. You might want to buddy up to him. I'll see if I can move him over to another field, but if I can't, he's there for the weekend. So.
And we got a guy hiding behind the scenes right now, and we'll call him the Wizard of Oz. It's probably back to like that movie, just hanging out back there. Whoever asked that question, tell them I'm going to give them a Melvin Mora Topps Chrome autograph for being the first one to ask a question on the TikTok. So whoever it was that answered that question was Ruben. Ruben, you just got yourself a Melvin Mora autographed Topps Chrome baseball card. I appreciate it. I think maybe we transition to something else off of umpiring. Maybe we talk a little bit about the high school process.
Okay.
My son's in 9th grade. He just started 9th grade. And I know it completely changes now. So we've been playing AA, AAA, major baseball all the way up since 7U. And now it's just gone.
Yeah.
It's all 15U. I know most of them are going to be playing on their high school teams. But in next summer, when they go to baseball tournaments, they can't say, oh, that team's got 6 majors players, or that team's got 4 AAA players, or those kids aren't really rec players. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's 15U. If you're born, April 1st, 2008, you guys can all play together, and you might be running into guys throwing 85 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And there's no classifications anymore.
For the most part, they try to separate it 15, 16, 17, 18, but a lot of times the 15 and 16s get put together and the 17s and 18s get put together. If you're playing a really small tournament, it's probably a free-for-all. It just depends on what you jump into. But yeah, the biggest I get tickled when I would go to my son's games when he just, 15, 16 years old because the parents were still, oh, we finished first, but we don't get anything. No, you're out here for reps to get better. This is not to win rings and banners or whatever else, right?
Let me stop you right there real quick. I do want to talk about that a little bit. We're just kind of flying off the cuff here. I know they don't do that anymore at 15U, right? But I think that is such a great thing for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Sure. I think it's cool for them, especially like my son still has like some of the rings and stuff in his room. And I think that was such a great thing. We didn't really have that growing up. The ring thing, we have trophies and stuff, but the ring thing is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially the first time a kid wins one of those rings, they go absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
They're walking around like standing around like this thing, and they're Tom Brady with all the Super Bowl rings. And I mean, we're gonna miss that, but you're right. Hey, it's about reps now. Now we're trying to go to the next level. And
you have to change your mindset.
Some people that's high school. Some people that's going to be a JUCO or NCAA. Some people will even move further up into the minor leagues and major leagues. And the thing that I've always told my son is, I want you to play baseball as far as you can. I want you to play basketball as far as you can. So when you go to college, you can join an intramural team and make lifelong friends there playing softball, playing basketball. Everything that he's learning from sports is going to help him out further in life. That's always been my advice to him.
Yeah.
So going into the next level, we're going to see a lot of kids not make the high school team that have been playing baseball, right?
Yep.
I mean, a lot of those kids that play AAA majors aren't going to make the high school team, or most of them going to make it.
It just depends.
My kid played AA for the majority of his youth, and the last year before he went into high school, he was on a AAA team, and I wouldn't even say.
So it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
All right.
And my son made his freshman team at Waxahachie High School, which is a 6A.
Huge.
Pretty good baseball organization.
Yep.
They historically they've done well. He made the team and was in the rotation as a pitcher, played a little third. Same thing as sophomore year, even though COVID was a thing,
yep.
Our freshman year. So we did transfer, but that was his personal choice to go to a private school and kind of be with some of his friends over there, but it had nothing to do with him not making. It wasn't about not making the team. He had made it as a freshman. 43 kids tried out. They took 21 or 22. So you got 20 plus kids that didn't make it. And
how many of those kids came back the next year? Do you know and actually made the team, or most of them pretty much done? That was
it. They didn't. I don't know if they tried out
again or not. I know that when you're a sophomore, it's not really a tryout anymore. It's you go to the coach and say, "Hey, I'd like a workout." You do a workout for the coaches, and if they want to keep you, if they got a spot for you. I mean, those. Your freshman JV and varsity carry 20 kids each, and so it's the competition is magnified because you're at a 6A school with 2,000 kids, or however many kids are at your high school, and that's the biggest thing I try to tell parents. It doesn't matter. We had 3 rec kids make our high school team. Their parents just didn't believe in paying the money, but those kids were freaking studs.
100%. Yeah.
And so they made the team, and they played all the way through. They made varsity, their junior and senior year. So one of them was a flat out stud. So
you see a lot of that. Like athletes are going to come. Athletes are going to be athletes, right?
If you can play, you're going to play. I mean, that's just it. Doesn't. And I know a lot of parents want to, and I was the same way. Like, okay, if you want to make your high school team, we got to do this, this, and this. But I understood that my kid wasn't a freaking stud, and he needed all that.
A lot of times parents have blinders on when it comes to their kid, and they just, and you should, it's your kid. But at some point, we got to come to reality and understand that, okay, my kid's not one of the top 20 players, probably might not make the team, and be okay with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, that's life. Sometimes competition is bigger than where you're at in the moment.
Again, that's what I'm going back to, like 5 minutes. I'm going back to having that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm going back to that same thing that I said at the beginning, where I want my son to play as high level as he possibly can and take all those things that he learns from it and take that to college. So if he does play baseball in college, great. If he doesn't, great. Like, it's cool to go out there and drop bombs in an intramural softball game or knock down threes in an intramural basketball game, be part of a frat. That moves you along further in life than anything. And I think sports helps instill that.
And I'll say this just from personal experience with
say you don't make your high school team. Keep playing for your club team. Keep working, keep getting better. If you want to play at the collegiate level, somebody will take you. Now, you might have to go to North Dakota, but somebody will take you.
I am from Minnesota. Kind of resent that. I love it up there. It's cool.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way.
Yeah,
You
I
just
know,
have
I
to-
Open your mindset to not playing at the University of Texas, but somebody will have a spot for you if you desire to play and you're willing to work hard for it.
Yeah, and that's just it too. Like, you know, I know again we're going off a little bit off topic, but like everyone always talks about, oh, scholarship this and scholarship that and scholarship this. Baseball doesn't really pay scholarships.
Yeah, I
that's
think they
that's
got
safe
like-
for the bigger sports, right?
They got like 11 scholarships for 20.
And those aren't even full scholarships. No, those are small, partial. It's not like you're going to the University of Miami to play football where they'll actually take care of you. You're not gonna. They just don't do it.
Well, let's just educate our parents on why.
Baseball is a sport in college that works at a deficit. Your sports that bring in the money for athletics is football, basketball, men's and women's, and so those sports bring in the money for every other program. So then those programs get what? Less money.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
It's just the way the world works.
Perfect. I ran into a guy. He's actually a big strength and conditioning guy, and he wanted to give out 2 free weeks of workouts to a couple baseball players. It's called Vigor Strength and Conditioning. So if anyone wants to ask a question, I got a couple of those free 2-week workouts with him. Plus, I also give out another couple baseball cards or football cards. I think I got like a Justin Herbert rookie card in there, some other stuff too. So we have any other questions on TikTok?
Not at the moment.
Come on, man, let's go. Someone asked something. I guess we can transition a little bit into the Little League World Series. I don't know if you watched a lot of that. It's gotten pretty big on ESPN. And it's kind of fun to watch. You see these 12-year-old kids from all over the world. The United States won it this year with California, that walk-off home run. Man, that kid from Chinese Taipei was throwing 83 miles an hour at 12. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I know everyone is always like, oh, my kid throws 70, my kid throws 80. I know a couple kids that are 14 that are throwing 80, 81, 82, and that's fast, right? Even at 14.
Yeah.
Let alone at 12 when you're like a tic-tac away from the home plate.
Yeah.
They said it was equivalent to 104 miles an hour. I don't even know how you try to barrel that up.
Yeah, that's insane for a 12-year-old.
Maybe.
Yeah. So for me, I don't get to watch it as much. I would like to watch more, but it's one of those things where we're always working. I'm coaching, in the morning and in the afternoon for football, and then I got 6 hours in the day to get my job done. So it's hard.
It's definitely different, like watching it as opposed to baseball that we watch here, right?
Yeah.
Where I grew up in Minnesota, they did do like stand on the base, got to wait till the pitch crosses home, and it's kind of weird watching that now.
They do that here in some rec levels.
I do actually like it a little bit, especially at the lower levels.
Yeah, 9 and under is great.
Yeah, 9 and under. Like at 9 years old, you're just watching the kid. A walk is basically a triple, and maybe even a home run because they get on base.
Yeah.
They steal second because there's no way the kid's gonna throw about.
You gotta
They
love the
steal
team.
third.
You gotta love the team that just hauls butt from
From a walk all the way to second.
Or all the way to third, even.
Yeah.
Like, and then half the time they're over at third. You're like, the people are like, go, and you just run and steal home because half the time the catcher can't catch the ball to dive to the front of the plate to tag them out. I mean, it's crazy. It's weird watching kids on a 225-foot field. But it's fun too. Like 83 miles an hour is nasty. It's cool for all those kids. I mean, I can't imagine going to Williamsport as a 12-year-old, playing against international competition, just having a great time. They did change those bats. Remember when US went from their bats to USA bats?
right.
So I just looked up a stat, and they went from 65 home runs to under 20.
It's kind of like going to a BB Corp bat when you're 14.
Yeah, well, I think most of the kids that are playing 14 should be swinging at BB Core. What do you think?
I do too. Our rules and most rules allow for the double A's to use still a drop 5, but if you're playing AAA majors, it's a drop 3.
I think we're getting close to running out of time. I think this was great. I mean, we kind of winged it. We came in here, had a good time. No more questions on TikTok. We didn't get one. All right. Well, we'll sign off. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at 7:15. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, so it took us a little longer. Half hour went fast.
It went pretty fast.
All right.
Good stuff.
Appreciate it.